The January 10th meeting open. Rich, do you want to give us a roll call?
Okay. Christopher Boyce, Chair.
Here.
Gina Demento.
Here.
Honor Mercer.
Here.
Kimberly Hirsch.
Here.
Sarah Jane Fornes.
Here.
Alyssa Gamble.
Here.
And Jason Palutro.
Here.
All members present.
Okay, first item is 50 Somerset. I don't know if the applicant's present, Rachel.
Okay. Yes, if you wanna.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Edmondson-Corm. I'm the attorney for the 50 Somerset project. We are withdrawing the application as of right now just because we need to get some answers from National Grid that have not been forthcoming.
Okay.
And in order to, we also have our civil engineer who's here for all three tonight. It'll probably be a while. Maybe we're gonna withdraw and then resubmit when everything is, all the Ts are crossed and the Is are dotted. My apologies for submitting it when we thought everything was gonna be okay.
No.
But we're gonna be having a community meeting for the community on the 31st. There should be a mailing going out as well. We're gonna have that at Incubate co-working space.
Okay.
We're doing everything with it. Everybody within 500 feet of the building will be getting as long as they're on the tax rolls, that is, will be getting an invitation to that as well, so.
Got it. All right, so it's a formal withdrawal. Rachel, do you know if you need to vote on a withdrawal?
We do not have to vote on this one because we never opened the hearing.
Got it.
If we had
Perfect.
opened it, we would do a motion to withdraw.
Okay, great. Community meeting is a great idea, and look forward to seeing your application. Thank you.
We're also gonna do a business roundtable with the chamber as well. We have not set a date with that yet, but I am talking with Ms. Shane about that.
Great. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
Okay. Second item on the agenda is the return of 40R Bank Street definitive subdivision plan. Okay, you could take it away. We're going to assume this is the first time we've seen the application. Walking us through any differences from the last application would also be helpful.
Certainly. So again, my name is Rebecca Edmondson-Corm. Most people call me Dee Dee Edmondson. I'm here with my clients, Jason and Glenn Calla. We are, obviously, I know that this is not the first time you have seen this application, but we are back again, mostly with I wanted to talk about the subdivision law and the definitive subdivision plan that we have proposed here. This property is just shy of 20,000 square feet. What are we proposing is that there is an easement that's over 30 years old, actually 37, over 37 years old at this point. This easement was created because land always was one, and then of course it was divided off. There have been previous applications, which I'm sure you'll hear about tonight, about this land. However, we do not believe that they went about it the right way. What they needed to do and what the subdivision law allows is, if everybody has a printout, I do have a printout of also the subdivision plan and also my presentation. If anybody needs one, I do have one. But
I'm not sure if I have that. I think I have it.
Online, but not that.
Yeah.
I think all I have is the marketing there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
here's some more if needed as well.
I have it electronically. Yeah, I just got that today, I think.
So the reason this land has never been developed prior, and it's not because it's undevelopable, you might have heard that, you might hear that this evening, there is no case that says it is undevelopable land. If that was so, then it would have had to been purchased by the town at this point. What they didn't do is utilize the subdivision control law in the past to create frontage. And that is exactly why there is a subdivision control law. Subdivision control has been subdivision laws have been on the books since the 1800s, or late 1800s in the Commonwealth. In 1953, plus there's been additions to that, they have created what's called ways of creating frontage. One is a public way, absolutely, that's pretty easy. Most things are created on public ways with frontage. However, we have when you subdivide land, you have to have ways to get onto it and also to develop that land. So in the second part of the subdivision law, in a certain section, which I can reference to you in our little presentation here, and if you'd like, I don't mean to make Rachel work, but the subdivision control law, I think it's page number 2, this is from our own ordinance.
Do you want me to share my screen? I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry. My computer, we had this whole plan worked out tonight where I was going to share my screen and I was going to control all this. And then, of course, the blue screen of death showed up this evening before I got here. So my apologies for making Rachel do work. So the subdivision control law, this is from our own ordinance, and not mine, I'm sorry, the Winthrop zoning ordinance. If you look at in section B down here, it says, every lot within the tract so divided has frontage on either a public way or B, a way shown on a plan, thereafter approved and endorsed in accordance with the subdivision control law. If you just go to screen number 3, this is the subdivision control law. And it is a private way. It can be deemed a private way. It can be an easement. We have a seminal case here out of Winthrop. It's called the Zagala case. It is provided in the very back of your packet. It is about an easement that two people fought over, two front and a back, and unfortunately, the people that lived in the front had to give in to the people in the back that they could pave, they could walk over, and even park. But just because the easement ended, he could park. That was just for that case. We're not asking to park on the easement here. We're not asking to park on the private way. We're asking to create frontage from the private way only. The other thing that differs between our application and applications of the past is that there was not a good plan for safety, fire safety especially. That was definitely referenced within the court decision, the Spicer decision or the Pellegrini decision that you'll hear about later, I'm sure. So one of the things I wanted to show, especially about our subdivision application, is the hammerhead driveway. What's called a hammerhead driveway. Now, I didn't know what that term meant until I started talking to my clients and also the fire department. So we went to the fire department and developed it with the fire department. 2 successive chiefs of the fire department in Winthrop have approved and been in consultation with us around this project. The entrance is 29 feet wide. The easement itself is 29 feet wide, which is half the size of this room, almost, a little bit over. Because I came in and measured a couple of days ago, just as reference. 29 feet. And it's almost 87 feet long as well. And so what we have, and I know it's in the packet as well, but I also have extras. I have letters from the fire chiefs, previous fire chiefs, and also the Board of Health as well. I don't know if those were just, I know Al sent the letter today, but.
Yeah, that's in the packet.
So we have the latest letter from the Board of Health saying there's no health risks. I don't know if you had this or not. This was just today. And I also have letters from both Chief Flanagan and Chief Wiley of the fire department. Now, these were already in your packets in 2021, but I just printed them out again as well. Additionally, on top of the safety, yeah, if that's okay, thank you. Thank you for being my Sherpa. I appreciate that, sir. Even though you're my client, I didn't mean to do that to you. We have been through 2 successive site plan reviews as well with all the major departments in this town at the table. So administrative site review means that you have to have the police, the fire, public safety, Board of Health, building department, and the town manager at the table. We have gone through 2 successive site plan reviews. And with what is submitted, there will be no relief required from the Board of Appeals as
Oh,
well.
I have the old one. A couple of versions.
As long as a private road or a private way is created and approved by your board, it creates frontage. And with the proposal of my clients, nothing else will be needed except for Conservation Commission, because this land does fall on Conservation Commission land, or in the Conservation Commission purview. Is it 20% of the land, Mr. Salvo?
I would say thereabouts. It's in land subject to coastal storm flooding.
And if you don't mind me,
Just to confirm your last comment for the board.
Yes, sir.
and Sorry to interrupt. In the last application, there was 3 variance requests. Are you saying that those
it's
are?
not a variance request, they're waivers. My apologies on waivers as well. So they are kind of mute waivers, because one is is the curb rounding, the other is the dead end, and one more is the sidewalks. We're asking for a waiver for having sidewalks on the private way that will lead only to one place. We think, the other is about the dead end, and the other is that it's supposed to be a 20-foot wide curb round, where it's, how many feet is it?
0. It's a 90-degree intersection.
Right. So, and again, those issues were looked at by the fire department, and we actually, on one of these, they actually have the size of an ambulance as well. And there is they have no trepidations about the design of the hammerhead or the entrance as well. Further, we are sprinkling the building. They have already said they're going to sprinkle the building, as well as put up a fire hydrant on the land as well, to make it fire safe as possible.
Is that the end of your presentation?
I do have the site plan review as well. If you do not already have them, I do have the second and the first and the second ones that were done. If, does anybody have not in your packet, but if you could. And I do have some comparisons to other private ways, easement accesses, and we are far and beyond larger than most of the easements in private ways. As far as 29 feet. We are asking waiver requests for the sidewalks for the private way. We believe it's not necessary for the sidewalks, because there will be sidewalks leading on banks, but nobody will be walking toward them, toward the house. And that is, I also just want to, for a small, there's been a lot of Durham and Strang about my clients and their intentions, and they've been called horrible names, and I just want to give them a second if they would like, but I just want to say for them, these are not unscrupulous developers trying to come into Winthrop, like they're definitely unscrupulous. I don't represent them, but I don't represent unscrupulous developers. These are homegrown guys. These are guys that grew up here, that live in the community. Their family and friends have been in this community for, 50 years, 3 generations, yeah. And they're not here to do anything other than build on the lot and make it a buildable lot. Nothing more. They're not trying to disrupt neighborhoods and cause flooding. I know you'll hear a lot about these things, but I also want to point out that the Winthrop Housing Authority just came out with a flood report for the area, or for one part of the area as well. And in no part does it say that if these trees are taken down, that it's going to flood other things, that it's going to flood more people. What it does say is that infrastructure is needed, but it also requires a mitigation plan for the area, for landscaping type of mitigation. Mr. Salvo, can you explain, you do have a thorough drainage plan for this that you will be presenting for the Concom, if approved?
That is correct. So if the planning board were to approve, because the construction of a house isn't before the board right now, the only thing that's before the board is the creation of the way that would create frontage for the house. So this board wouldn't be approving any kind of a development of the lot. That would, however, fall in the Conservation Commission's purview because a portion of the lot is located within the 100-year floodplain, and there would be significant drainage improvements. Although there really are no, the DEP stormwater regs don't apply to developments of 4 lots or less or one single-family home. It's been our experience in Winthrop that we generally provide significant stormwater improvements to ensure that this lot wouldn't exacerbate any existing situations and hopefully in some cases maybe make a slight improvement.
So we're here to not destroy the structure, the fabric of any community. These are homegrown boys that want to make good in their hometown. And with that, I will leave it to them if they want to say any. Would you like to say anything?
No,
Okay.
Jay? That would just be more of what Dee Dee said. You know, again, we're not trying to do anything harmful to the area. We have all good intentions. We're lifelong residents of this town. We're very prideful of this town. We have family members that have put their livelihood and soul into this town through the council, through the DPW and others. I mean, so, you know, as Dee Dee mentioned, there's a lot of negativity out there. I hope you can, you know, hear the presentation and you know, review it in a fair way, is all we're looking for.
And if anybody, I did bring the storm study, the flood study from the Winthrop Housing Authority that just came out in November as well, and I can pass it up as well. Keep asking me to do things. It's just one, it's one report.
I wouldn't have a purple paper.
Oh, that is my purple paper.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, I think if it's all right with the board, open to public comment next. So we'll open it up to public comment. State your name and
Jean Tyler.
precinct.
I was born in Winthrop, and thank you all for letting us today and say how we feel. Because we live in an inner city, you don't get to do that. So we're blessed. Thank you. From both of you. I am so scared because I feel as if I don't own them the sanctity of my home that I've worked my whole life for. You know, I understand they have their ambitions about building condos and making some money, as do many people. But we wake up to the chirping of birds instead of the whining of cars. We value and worship our animals that are in there. We try to keep it beautiful. We even go back and my neighbor, you know, he has children. If one child was to even get hurt in there, I think that would be so unforgivable to ask that of us to put a road in our backyard. I can hear the birds. I can hear them chirping. I can tell you which kind it is. And these people think they're gonna run a car in my backyard, and you'll destroy the sanctity of my home. Like, how could you even ask this? It's irrational thinking, at best. It's so irrational. That's all I have to say. Thank you again for letting me talk.
Thank you.
No.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Sure.
my name is Nicholas Gomes. I'm an attorney in Massachusetts. My address is 67 Barry Mark Street, Boston.
Yep, go ahead.
I am representing Diane Banks. She is the direct abutter to this project. She's sitting in the back row to my left. Her property address is 40 Bank Street. What is unique about my client is for the last 38 years, she's lived at this property. When the transaction of her house occurred, there was a 29-foot width easement that was put to the side of her house. This is essentially the access point in which the applicant is trying to use as their new road, which is actually really just a driveway to one house, if we're talking in reality. That 29 feet has come before this board and the Zoning Board of Appeals, and has been denied on 5 occasions. And it has been supported by case law with a Superior Court judge, as discussed by counsel, on 1 occasion. Now, I was last before you in 2022, and what I have for you is a condensed version of my presentation of that night. I would ask that the board, and I hope they have already reviewed, the decision back in January 2022, when Mr. Carroll was the chairperson. And I see a few familiar faces from that time. And I hope you remember the thunder of the opposition. And here we are again, right after the holidays, right after the snow, right after the rainstorm, where right now, that 29 feet easement is a puddle. The circumstances over the last 38 years have not changed regarding this parcel. What has changed is Winthrop is continuing to grow. There's more people. But even if you review the records, we're talking 1988, denied. 1990, denied. 2006 was the big dispute that went to the Superior Court, denied. 2017, denied. During the 2022 hearing, as well as the same petitions, if you read it, back in the day, handwritten, everyone was opposed to it who was in the neighborhood, who was then further supported by the greater community of Winthrop. And that is still happening today. Back in 2022, my client had 50 signatures from Winthrop residents, 200, and I know it's on the internet, but the names, addresses do add up to show this opposition. And I want to go over the details, but I'm not going to go into the lengthy history anymore, because I hope you already understand that. And more importantly, what I want to cite to is what really matters. What is at stake here today? And I can tell you with confidence, after researching this case back in 2021 and 2022, keeping apprised of what's been going on for my client, refreshed last week when we received notice, when she provided me notice this was going on. So I decided to look at the law to provide you some support to know that with confidence, a no vote today is the right decision. That's in accordance with Massachusetts law, and it is in accordance with all of the other decisions that have been made, which have been based on the town of Winthrop bylaws. Now, what I am curious about, and I'll be with all candor, is how are we here today from a standing perspective when 2 years have not elapsed since that decision basis, that where there was an unfavorable decision. It's my understanding of the law of when an unfavorable decision is granted, such as the denial that happened in January 24th of 2022, officially certified by that written decision, the 28th. We're here again. It should require at least 2/3 vote to say that we consent to you coming back to even bring this forward. And what's notable about that language of the law is that vote and what the board is looking for is a specific and material change in the conditions which were not there for the previous unfavorable decision. So I've listened to counsel. I had my client diligently go to town clerks to give me the application. I reviewed it. It looked very similar, almost identical to the 2021 submission. I did hear some scattering of, here's an updated fire department report, I'm guessing from today, as well as another item about something about the environment, which was not in my documents that I retrieved from the town clerk. So I would like to look at them and tell you that afterwards, but let me go through this. The comments regarding the environment that have been throughout, and the engineer just told you that there's no real authority. Don't worry, the conservation will take care of it. I point you specifically to your own bylaws, chapter 17.40. It says, the planning board shall review all proposed subdivisions in all new construction within flood hazard areas. And this is the important part that I underlined for you in my letter. And no such subdivision or construction shall be approved unless the planning board shall determine that such subdivision or construction shall be designed to provide for adequate drainage and for the location and construction of utilities, and this is even more important because of the sensitive nature of this Bell Island marsh, is that your job is to make sure that such water drainage is minimized or eliminate damage to the utilities caused by those floodwaters. When you look at the application, which is the identical version to the past, the language on their application states in an ambiguous manner, first, that they're going to contain all of the water on site. And then the next sentence says that they're going to direct it to the existing town stormwater collection system. Without looking at anything further, reading the face of their application, what does that even mean? How can you contain it on site in a tank and then also allow it to get into the stormwater system? Those are two completely opposite ideas. Back in 2022, it was raised, we should have an environmental study. I reviewed the application, I don't know what was handed today, but what I reviewed was not an environmental impact assessment. Good for the planning board, you have specific authority to require such type of submissions so that you can make an informed decision. The 29-foot easement. What's interesting in this is back in 2022, the board voted unanimously to reject the 3 waivers, which are the 3 same waivers you are seeking here today. Essentially, there's no new information or reasoning behind this coming forward. They did not seek, under the bylaws, a waiver of the 40-foot width right-of-way, which I don't think and they might have a reason for why they didn't try to waive that, but I would say that it was a glaring issue then, and it's still a glaring issue now, and they didn't fix that on their application. With regard to the failure of sidewalks, this is a big one. The planning board in the case law is directly on point. You have full authority to require these sidewalks, just like the size of the right-of-way. And then lastly, the case law is supportive of not just your access to the premises for you as the owner of the land, but how is this total development going to interfere with overall traffic patterns in the other areas. Going back to the first decision on the Pellegrini case, the judge points out how this is a tight, narrow road, how it's a one-way. There's more cars on the road certainly than back in 2009 when he was making that decision. So these issues are even worse now. And again, the case law is in the updated letter that I'd like to submit to you in just a moment. Now, I included with my letter as the 2 exhibits that decision from back in 2022, which has all of the information you need to see the support of what I'm saying is valid, but then also contains a personal impact statement from my client, Ms. Diane Spicer, who she's lived here for a great period of time of her life with her husband, who's ill, cannot be here by her side today to help her support it, but he would know even more intimately of those battles that they've had to fight generationally, decade after decade. And again, because the bylaws contain these requirements, you need to do this. This is our expectation as the town of Winthrop, the minimum that you need to do. So this board can reject these waivers year after year, it seems, whenever they want to file, and let them push the bounds. But what is disheartening to me is seeing in the decision and the supporting documents, the housing authority, back then, they were not in support of this project. They included an email specifically to do that. I don't know if they were asked by the proponent to see if their decision has changed, and I don't know if anyone is here from, thank you. Lastly, looking at these statements, I know council said this is not a waiver, but essentially, you still have to follow the same rubric. It falls down to public health, public safety, goodwill of the people. And time after time, the people have come forward and say, we have issues with access, we have issues with traffic, we have issues with the environmentally sensitive nature of this project. I believe all of their words should be held high and supported by the years and years of these neighborhood community members coming forward and telling you no to 40R Bank Street. Last thing I want to say is my client has been proactive after the denial in 2022. She reached out to the town manager, city office, to seek guidance. What can you do here to stop this so we don't have to keep going forward? Is there anything that can be done? Are there any other avenues that you're looking to potentially make this into some type of beneficial use and be true to the community of what you could do? Maybe it might be conservation and letting these people live their lives in peace with quiet enjoyment. If the project was to be approved, it would be detrimental to the public good. It would substantially derogate from the intent of your bylaw in the supporting state law. These individuals, the applicant before you, sorry, Mr. Chair, the application before you is essentially trying to circumvent the law. It didn't work when we called it a driveway. It didn't work when you called it a driveway 3 times. It didn't work when you called it a street in 2022. There should be no reason and no doubt why you think you are entitled to relief from this board. And in light of what is raised in my written opposition, I'd like to hand it off, if it's okay with you, or if anyone prefers electronic, I will get it to the clerk. That you, in the matters that have been raised by myself and anyone else who is in opposition, that this project be denied once again. Thank you very much. Is it all right if I provide, the documents? I have one original with the signatures.
I can take that, thank you.
Apologize.
Thanks.
Here you go.
Any other public comment?
We have some hands raised too, once we finish in room.
Got it, thanks.
May I have one?
I'm Ryan Bradshaw. I live at 34 Bank Street with my wife and also our 2 children.
Yeah,
We have a 5-year-old son and a soon-to-be 2-year-old son. We're relative newcomers to Winthrop. We moved from out of state. I work at Northeastern University now, and we purchased 34 Banks about 18 months ago. One thing that comes to mind is that if they were looking for frontage at that time, there was an available lot that they could have purchased to go through our property name frontage, but I guess that wasn't part of their plans. Main things I see in opposition of this is that it creates a lot of additional burden on the street and on the residents. We're taking out parking spaces that are on the street. There's already a lack of parking. It's a very busy street. Our kids play on the street. There's at least 6 other kids who are under 10 who are on the street, who play on there regularly. We're creating more traffic hazards of our kids biking down the street, potentially getting hit by cars coming out of this roadway. The fact that it's not even wide enough, we're not adding sidewalks to it, other kind of big issues. But I think the biggest thing and the biggest challenge is that we're adding a whole bunch of impermeable surfaces in an area that already floods. We have thoughts on this that we're going to, have water mitigation efforts, and we're going to collect it, but then dump it into the storm drains that already flood and already cause issues for a lot of people on Morton, and a lot of people at the bottom of the street there. I don't really want to trust their environmental assessment and their plans. So one thing that I would request of the board, if it's in your purview, to at least do a peer review of the engineering work and of the water mitigation efforts. And for that to kind of get looked over, because, with all these efforts that they put in there, I don't really want to trust just that, our engineers, it'll be all right, when everything already kind of flows down. That lot that they want to put the driveway through right now is currently probably about 18 inches of water sitting in it. And then you're going to block it off, and where's that water going to go? It's going to go into 42 Bank Street. Yeah, and a lot of other efforts there. And actually, all the land, even at the back of the lot, it flows down into 34, 36, 38. So I think there's a lot of efforts that need to be put in there, and that people need to at least, have some peer-reviewed engineering work there. But mainly, it also just creates another financial burden. It's gonna devalue the properties for everyone. And in the town bylaws, it says that if it creates a financial burden on the residents of the current area, then that's something that the council has to take into consideration. And so, on those points, I strongly oppose this and would ask you guys to oppose it as well.
Hi. My name's Nadine Calla. I'm a resident in the town. Excuse me. I'm married to Jason Calla. My brother-in-law is Glenn Calla. I am not a lifelong member of this town, but I do own a business in this town. My husband and my brother-in-law are lifelong members in this town. They take pride in this town. They have a talent for construction. Anyone who drives by our house that my husband and my brother-in-law have poured their heart and soul into, on Triton Avenue, if we're standing outside, someone will stop and say, "You have the most beautiful home. We love all the work that you've done." This is the type of integrity, talent that they were trying to bring into a single-family home on a 20,000 plus square foot lot of land. I don't understand the concept of devalue. How does that devalue an already residential property? The traffic, we're talking about one property here. How much traffic is a single family going to bring in? My business is on Fremont Street. I have a apartment complex being built on top of my building. It's directly across the street from the Cummings School. It is right next door to the fire department. Nobody's concerned about parking there. Nobody's concerned about traffic there. I have clients that can't even get in to see me without having to walk around the block. So these projects are happening through the town. I understand the frustration. I'm frustrated with that. But we're talking about a single-family property to go into this already area that is already has single-family property. So we're not changing the integrity of the property. I'd like to think we'd be adding to the value of the property. I encourage everyone to drive by our home, drive by Glenn Calla's home, and see the beautiful work that they do, to understand, has anybody put any research in? Somebody's talking about condos being built here. There isn't condos being proposed to be built here. That was never part of the plan. So it's frustrating that we're here, we're listening to all of this, and it doesn't seem that there's been a lot of understanding of what their intentions and their goals are. I have to tell you this, I had to remove myself from social media. The first round, when we had the first hearing almost 2 years ago, I had to block people that are members of this community because of the things that they were saying about myself, about my husband, about my family. Corrupt? We're not corrupt. We are not developers that are coming in and building a multi-million-dollar complex here. This is a single-family home. They're willing to work with whichever department within the town they need to work with to get guidance. They've sat with the building department. They've sat with the fire department to get their guidance and their expertise to help put this plan together. So I hope that everyone can take a step back and understand this is not a major complex that we're trying to put into this lot. It's a single family, and it is being crafted by two guys who have full-time jobs that have nothing to do with construction, that want to build this single-family home to improve the neighborhood. Hey, maybe it was because we wanted to move there, or maybe my brother-in-law wanted to move there. Again, this is not some gimmick or some plan to make a ton of money and corrupt the town. So I would like everybody to think about that and understand the facts before you come at social media or come at a meeting or talk to anybody. Understand really what's trying to be done here. And also, my last point, we're here today not because we decided that we wanted to torture people, but I believe it was decided that the original decision was not in compliance with the subdivision laws in this town. No?
That's it.
Are we allowed?
That's it.
All right. So that's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Tony Colasso, on George Street. I'd like to just come bounce off of what she was talking about a little bit more. And I'd like to say, we're about to be strong-armed 3A by the MBTA. They want to come in here and they want to zone us. They want us to zone 800 units somehow in this town. They want to squeeze it in. That's not small-town spirit at all, being strong-armed like that. If we don't take it, we don't get funding in certain areas. That's not small-town politics. That's not what it's all about. We have two homegrown men here that belong in this town. Our children belong in this town. We need to continue to grow this town together. We don't need the force from the outside coming in and making a mockery of our town. When we have homegrown people right here that are capable of making a great, great community and continuing on with that great, great community. I think that builders in our community are much more needed than developers coming in from outside and taking over our community. I do not like that. I prefer it this way.
Get somebody else first. Anybody else that hasn't spoken yet? Peter?
My name is Peter Gill, Precinct 5. I'm a member of the Housing Authority, and we had a meeting this week, and I just wanted to deliver a message and have it part of the public record. The Winter Board of Commissioners, Winter Board of Commissioners met in an executive session on Monday, January 8th. Board member Peter Gill was authorized to submit the following statement to the Planning Board on January 10th. Pursuant to a unanimous vote, the Board of Commissioners of the Winter Housing Authority cannot support the October 25th resubmitted subdivision plan for 40 Rear Bank Street.
Peter.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Yes, Barry?
My name's I have a bad knee, I'm gonna sit, is that okay?
That's fine.
My name's Yoli Morocco Foley, I live on corner of Morton and Douglas Street. I am a retired ER nurse from Beth Israel Deaconess, and I've seen plenty of tragedies. I just wanted to say that we had a fire on corner of Bank Street, where now there's two beautiful condos that they built there. And Winthrop, the fire department had to have help from Chelsea and East Boston. If there is a fire or any kind of an emergency in this little area, I can't imagine how they're gonna get personnel in there. When you call 911, you get the fire department, Boston EMS services, and police. And they do remarkable work. If there is a fire there, it's gonna devastate Bank Street, my street, and Morton Street. I can't imagine they can get all this personnel in there, including EMS services, and get somebody out in a timely manner. I don't care what the configuration of the hammerhead is, especially if they need help. We just had a fire on Shirley Street, and we had a fire on Veterans Road recently, where a lot of people were displaced. And I've seen plenty of tragedies. And also, EMS and the fire department are not armed. The police also have to respond. They are instrumental sometimes, because when there's a call and when they respond, it could be a very different situation. And I saw that when we had the fire. The police were wonderful. They told us to get the kids out of there because of all the smoke and all the carcinogens in the air. That's one thing. The other thing is, I have with me a note that I got in my mailbox from Rachel Kelly. It was dated in November, that they were telling us that the Woods Hole Group and Green International was coming around and looking at the Belisle Marsh and the flooding that's devastating my house and Bank Street and Morton Street. They were looking at the utilities, they were looking at storm drains, and the survey of this work was because it was awarded by what is called the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant for the mitigation of the Morton Street flooding and the Belisle Marsh restoration. And it was very informative. Basically, what they're trying to do is to take nature, what nature was supposed to do, and enhance it. They're talking about a natural levee to support the salt marsh. They did look at storm drains, and I'm just, for my own self, they're gonna plow down at least 10 to 15 or greater mature trees that have been there since I moved here in '96. This is my 6th time coming here, and I really do feel like I am being harassed, the whole neighborhood. We got here 6 times, it's been denied 6 times, and we're here again. They're gonna plow down these mature trees, and right in my backyard, they're not diseased. They're big trunks, they're gonna have to dig those roots out and pave that over. I'm putting my money on the trees more than on this, what do they call it? The stormwater collection tank. And I'm just saying it because Winthrop did get money from Laura Healy's office. She got $36.1 million to offset climate change and try to preserve what we have and not pave it over. And it only was by the Woods Hole Group. It was very informative. They want to use nature instead of plowing things down. So I just feel like I've opposed this and I continue to oppose it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honestly and openly, I don't use social media. You'll never hear from me. But I'll say this to the board. When you hear, I can hear everything in my backyard. So they're asking me to put running cars in my backyard. In my backyard. So if you were to wake up and hear a car starting in your yard, that's what it would sound like. So that's all I want to say. Harassment, I think what she said. You know, and she's talking about people that are hiring lawyers. I don't have the ability to hire lawyers. I'm not very well spoken for that. I apologize. So I don't think they're simple people. Because I don't have money to bring a lawyer today. I think I'm simple, but I don't have very much means. But from my height, I don't want to live with that because I just don't even know how to express what it would sound like to you. Just imagine waking up and you hear a strange cat in your yard. It's so loud because that area, it houses birds and all kinds of wildlife. It's peaceful. Again, thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes.
A quick comment. We live in Winthrop. We don't live up in
Could you
rural New
say
Hampshire.
your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Christian Correa, Lewis Ave, Winthrop, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
We live in Winthrop. There's plane noises, there's car noises, this thing about trees and cars and birds and animals, like, we live in Winthrop. Like, Bank Street is closer to the airport and the airport noise than I have in Lewis Ave. Like, what are we talking about here?
I do have someone online too, once we're done.
Okay.
Oh, someone else is raising their hand, it looks like.
Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Kevin Foley. I live at 51 Banks. I'm in a butter. My wife just spoke. And we've done this before, okay? But that's my backyard this morning. That's my bulkhead to the cellar door, okay? There are more, okay? Now, you take all those trees, all those root balls, and you cover it with pavement, and it's gonna flood my yard. committee has records dating back to the first and second with the Pellegrinis. Nick Agri's house was previously owned by Mrs. Vaniff. Mrs. Vaniff's son worked for the Massachusetts State Department Highways, gauging water runoff due to roads and highways that were proposed to be built in this state. He stated that any major changes in the wildlife up there would cause worse flooding than this is doing now. Now, Nick Agri's yard is bigger and holds more water. And he literally had to dig a trench from his backyard, from the side of his house, by his sheds, to the front of his house, to let the water out the front of his house. Not to mention the sump that goes 24/7, 365 days a year, because the water table in the salt marsh is so close that nothing gets absorbed. Because you dig 8 feet, 10 feet down, you'll probably hit salt water. Now, that's about it. Once again, we're here, into the breach. So thank you for your time. Oh, one more thing. I didn't grow up in Winthrop. I've spent the last 45 or 50 years almost in Winthrop. So I call it my home. And I understand the Callas grew up in this town. And I know a lot of townies that grew up in this town, and they're all wonderful people. And I'm very sorry you're harassed on social media. I don't participate in social media. It shouldn't happen. It's disgusting. But they grew up in this town. They did not grow up in the neighborhood they're trying to invade. One house, but it's not worth the aggravation of a whole community. Multiple buildings around. It's going to be an island surrounded by people that really never, ever wanted them there. And I don't know why they keep persisting. Pellegrini did it, now the Callas are doing it. And we'll be back in 2 years if there's not a definitive thing made of this to end it once and for all. Thank you.
Sorry, if you may, can I also just show you a picture of what the easement looks like right now, where it's completely flooded? So,
Thank you.
yeah.
For those that,
Yeah, I can
sorry,
send it.
Chairman, do you mind if I speak?
Sure.
For those showing us pictures, please send them to Rachel so that they can be added to this.
Send them.
Yeah, I can help you do that
So-
if you want.
That's like the easement goes straight up and down through there.
Thank you.
So, if the water all at the bottom there. You guys want to see this?
No,
I'm sure.
it wouldn't look like that.
Yeah, no, because all the water would flow off.
Reggie, you said there's a comment online?
Yeah. So we have 2 raised hands. Nicholas, you were first, if you're able to unmute yourself. Thank you.
We'll take one more in the room. Sorry, Rachel.
Oh,
1 second, Nicholas.
Perfect, thank you. Richard Bibelo, 79 Lincoln Street. Lifelong Winthrop resident. I grew up here, my kids grew up here. I grew up with Jason. Our kids go to school together. So I know the integrity of which you speak. I've heard a lot of things tonight, a lot of complaints about property that doesn't belong to certain people and easements that, again, don't belong to people. I've heard 29 feet. That's bigger than a lot of streets in Winthrop. It sounds to me like that's more than enough room to fit service vehicles, emergency vehicles, response vehicles. And I've also heard a lot about flooding. It seems that there's a lot of flooding going on today. And maybe that area would benefit from an engineer looking at it and maybe some development to help correct that. Thank you.
No structure that man can make, can overcome easily.
all right.
All right.
I'd like to.
Yeah, we'll go online.
All
Rachel.
right. So, Miss. Yep.
149 Morton Street with my wife and 3 children. We're direct abutters, and I oppose the development of 40 on our Bank Street. I just want to start off that there's a bunch of new neighbors that have bought homes in the last year since the last time we met, and this was unanimously died. And I just want to make the case clear to them. This property is very unique. There's not another quote-unquote single-family property that is landlocked and abuts as many properties as this one in this town. Development of this property has been denied 5 times at the town level and once in state court since 1988. That's 36 years some of us have been doing this. In order to build a property, the zoning board requires a certain amount of road frontage. The applicants are applying to the planning board to subdivide in order to build a road, which would then be used to meet the zoning board's frontage requirements. I just want to make sure that people understood that. In order to build the road, the applicants are seeking 3 waivers. All 3 waivers are for the dimensional regulations of a road. Missing from their application is a 4th waiver for the minimum width of a road. 16.12.0.010.a.2 states that the minimum width of street rights-of-way shall be 40 feet. So when measured from property line to property line, the total width of a street, including sidewalks, as specified by the town code, is 56 feet wide. The easement the applications want to build their roadway on is only 29 feet wide. And while it may be bigger than other streets in Winthrop, as someone else said, they would still need another impossible 26 feet in order to relieve themselves of only 2 of these waivers. As they have in the past, the applicants have submitted supplemental documents. 2 of these documents are from the previous Fire Chief Flanagan, one from Chief Flanagan and one from Fire Chief Wiley, and they state, and I quote, "The Winthrop Fire Department feels that the proposed private way provides adequate width."
Sorry.
This is our neighbors.
Sorry.
Someone needs to mute themselves.
Yeah.
I'm going to start over with the quote. "The Winthrop Fire Department feels that the proposed private way provides adequate width to access the site as needed, and the hammerhead-style turnaround in lieu of a cul-de-sac will accommodate all public safety vehicles entering and exiting the premises." End quote. I provided the board with a SWOT plan analysis that I paid out of pocket for. I provided 2 of them. One is a standard-sized box truck, which would be used to deliver things like appliances or furniture to a new house. And the other is the Pierce ladder truck that the Winthrop Fire Department owns. These SWOT plan analyses show that neither vehicle can make the turn from Bank Street onto the proposed street or from the proposed street onto Bank Street if there are vehicles parked legally on Bank Street. Furthermore, neither of the Winthrop Fire Department engines, their pump truck or their ladder truck, can make the turn even if it is completely unobstructed by parked vehicles. In fact, at zoning board meetings in 2005, 2006, and later at a trial in 2009, former Chief Hazlett testified that there was a concern for fire department's ability to gain entrance to the lot through the easement. I would like to take the time to remind you all that the Winthrop Code of Ordinance states that strict compliance with the requirements of this title may be waived when, in the judgment of the board, such action is in the public interest and not inconsistent with subdivision control law. Waivers, this is our way of asking permission to break the law or ordinance. Planning board members may only grant waivers if, by doing so, it would be in the public's interest. A driveway, poorly disguised as a road, that is too narrow, does not have proper rounded corners, does not have sidewalks, does not have any public parking, and is not accessible by town's emergency vehicles, is not in the public's interest. It was stated multiple times by those in favor of this that it is for a single-family home. Dee even stated that this would only lead to one place. It would not be necessary to have sidewalks. No one would be walking to this house. Again, this is not in the public's interest. For all these reasons, and all the other reasons you've heard tonight, you'll hear about environmental impacts, about safety concerns, along with health and well-being concerns, I oppose them. And I urge board members to move to vote tonight and deny it once again. Thank you for your time.
We have more.
Okay, one more.
Diana.
Thank you, Diana Vian, Precinct 2. I oppose this development request for an exception. The developers here bought an unbuildable lot for the price of an unbuildable lot because it isn't buildable, right? But the previous owner wasn't able to get it through and therefore, sold it for essentially a song. This has been denied 5 times because it's non-conforming. The oddity of the configuration, the disruption to the abutters is the reason that these families and all of us who care about them show up and will continue to show up to oppose this. Despite the developer's attorney's comments, the town isn't required to purchase unbuildable lots. But I'm glad you brought it up because I actually would love to take this opportunity to reiterate that the town should actually step in here. There's an opportunity, and even for the developers to work with the town and with these neighbors to come to an agreement that I think might satisfy everyone. And I know that that's been attempted in the past, but I would just encourage everyone to come to a different agreement with respect to the land here. Perhaps it can be sold to the individual homeowners themselves, made into a park or space that the neighborhood could use. But I will say, I just really hate to see this neighborhood continuously get dragged through the mud, and I implore this board to make a very definitive statement here today, because at the end of the day, I agree with the statement that it is harassment at this point. There's been no changes to the plan. It's just a different approach. But to suggest that this planning board, with the Winthrop Planning Board, got it so badly wrong on multiple occasions and doesn't understand our subdivision law is actually pretty insulting, in my opinion. But I'll also say that the state's flood mitigation goals and preservation goals it's a mix of natural and man-made solutions. I think somebody else brought it up tonight, but trees are hugely important for this area, and because so many have already been removed, we're seeing all of this terrible flooding today. These trees in particular are probably one of the last section of trees next to the marsh, and they absolutely need to be preserved, and the removal of them would further damage the area, and really any of them will further damage the area, but also would damage all of those homes around. Somebody said, somebody thought it was not reasonable to enjoy birds if you live in Winthrop. I find that an incredible statement, but without going further on that, I would just say that I also agree that this planning board should require an environmental study of anyone who comes to the table with a plan like this. I didn't know that the board had that authority, but it would be really useful, not just in this instance, but probably going forward and for the whole neighborhood in general. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if that's it, we will close public comment.
Let me just double check the list, it's really long. I don't have any other raised hands online.
We're not public.
They're gonna stop. Oh, I got you.
Feel free to unmute yourself if you're online and you don't know how to raise your hand.
Okay.
I have no one else.
Thanks, Rachel. We'll close public comment. I think we'll take questions from the
We
board.
need a motion and then a second to close it.
May I just make some informational, points of information before,
We'll take a motion first to close public comment.
sorry, my apologies.
I'll make a motion to close public comment.
Anybody second?
I'll second.
Okay, Alyssa seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Take a comment from the applicant, and then we'll open it to board deliberation.
Fire Chief Wiley reiterated his support of the plan today. This is his new, you may or may not have gotten this letter, we just got it ourselves. And I just want to, 2 points, and then one is the driveway proposed, or the the easement of the private way is a permeable surface. That's what we're proposing, not a impermeable surface, so we're not asphalting it. And also, if you look at the subdivision plan, it looks around 35 to 40% of the land is as is. We do not touch the trees.
Sure, thank you.
And that's the closest to the marsh
Appreciate
as
it.
well. And in the flood zone, we do not touch those.
Got it. All right, I'll remind the board, obviously, taking into account public interest is important, but there's 3 waivers before us. Subdivision control law is how we should weigh this application. I think it's the same 3 waivers, unless I'm corrected, that we voted on last time, no difference. And maybe, I'll start with one quick question. If you can clarify why you're not asking for a waiver for roadway width?
It is my understanding that that is only for public streets and not for private ways.
Okay, if any other questions from the board first? Anybody else?
And that is my understanding from the town council as well.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to clarify one thing that you just said, and then I have another question. You said that you're not touching the part that's closest to the marsh, but that's not how I understood how this plan is oriented, because to me, this driveway is closest to the marsh.
So it is closest. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I was looking at it backwards. The building is, so answer. Answer for her.
So the structure will not be within the flood zone?
Yes.
The structure created, our efforts, obligations were to maintain as many of the trees and plant other trees after a structure has been placed. We're also putting a lot of effort into collection and control and direction of runoff and, maintaining or minimizing any type of floodshed. There is, as the Spices mentioned, they deal with a sort of a puddled area, a low depression area in their property at the easement. It's been 38 years that it's been like that. My thoughts were if that was a major concern, it probably would have got addressed. They probably would have leveled it, graded it, or tried to address the runoff properly. So to me, it doesn't seem like it was really a big concern for 38 years. The sidewalks.
However, the easement will be graded.
The easement will be graded, most definitely, and it will also have collection. The sidewalks, I just want to touch upon that a little bit. We didn't feel that the Spicers or anyone would want to see sidewalks going through that easement. I mean, it's less permeable. Our objective was to minimize it and make it look more aesthetically pleasing. So it doesn't really look like, a road, a street, but still be functional. And it would have to come up to grade and be pitched properly with the proper cross slopes and everything to be a functional access, which is doable. So I just wanted to touch upon that. As far as backyards, it's in my backyard. I have to set this straight. Every parcel, for the most part, has abutting parcels to it. So most people, if not everyone, has a backyard. They have a neighbor that's the backyard that abuts to theirs. This property is not in the Spicer's backyard. This is a property that abuts to the Spicer's backyard. Their backyard is in their parcel. Whether their house is set back or not, it's not their backyard.
I think that we
So,
understand all of
okay.
that, and I think that we have some questions. I know I do.
So,
My apologies for misstating
I'm sorry
earlier
if I went
as
too
well.
far.
It's been a long day.
No,
My
I
apologies.
understand. I wanted to make sure I was reading the plan right. My question is about the language, and I have tried to catch up on some of these handouts that you have. But on the plan, it says existing right of way, and I've also heard it referred to as a private way. And so I'm trying to understand if it's changing?
No, ma'am. It is, so an easement can be a private way, and a right-of-way is to only, there's a difference between an easement and a right-of-way. But that is nuanced in the real estate law. My apologies for going down a dorky attorney hole there, but it's not changing. It's just, if you recognize the easement as a private way, as under the subdivision control law,
But is there a difference between a right-of-way and a private way?
It's about the recognition of it, more than anything.
So what does that mean?
If the city or town will recognize it as a private way, versus you can't just call an easement a private way at the same time. So we're looking to do, for recognition from the municipality as a private way. The easement does exist, but it is not a private way, it's just.
It'd be you're asking for, so I'm clear, a public way privately maintained. It would not be maintained by the town?
It will not
But
be
you're asking
maintained by
for, to get frontage, to qualify for frontage, we can debate how you're dimensioning frontage, you're asking for essentially a public way,
A private way.
a private way. Publicly accessed private way. I mean, it's essentially a driveway that you're creating, but a driveway doesn't create frontage, right? So I'm just trying to understand.
A private way that certain people, depending on the deed, would have access and rights in that private way. A public way, in order for a private way to become a public way, there's a process by which there has to be an acceptance plan, it has to go to, it has to go to the town council, and it has to get accepted by the town. At that point, a private way becomes a public way.
Public way. But here it's just a private way. Most recently, you did an A&R for Taps Ave.
Different
Adams-
application, so let's keep it to this
I'm
application,
just-
please.
It's very similar, that creates frontage. Adams Street's created frontage on the A&R application. that Jeff
Yeah,
was-
just to add, oftentimes when the subdivisions are created, right, in the subdivision control law, you know, this is sort of a unique situation, right? Because most of the time, subdivisions don't create ways that only service one piece of land, right? Usually, the way, if you read the regulations and even the Winthrop subdivision rules and regulations, it's a process by which you create a way that provides access to usually multiple lots. That way remains a private way until such time that someone would go through the process and petition the town to accept that way as a public way.
Sure.
But it's
And
the same exact
I guess our
process.
question is the ownership of that private way, right? So that's what I think we struggle with a little bit, which we'd hope for clarification on. That private way to provide frontage to your applicant's property would therefore need to be owned by the applicant to be a private way, but right now it's simply a right-of-way easement owned in deed by Ms. Spicer.
It is owned by also my clients.
With the right to pass and repass. over
Right,
it.
to pass and repass, and to pave it or make it an
Yep,
impermeable
saw that.
service.
How is, the more I look at this, the more I see it. I don't see, how is this different than a driveway? How is it a way?
Because it's being created through a subdivision process. So,
But you're not subdividing this land.
Correct, we are.
you're creating a
But you're-
right-of-way
but
that's
the-
separate
but
from
the
the lot,
way-
that is a right-of-way.
So
The
one
way
one is
goes
15.
You have multiple people
I'm sorry,
speaking,
go
so,
ahead, Rick.
so if you'd like to answer, or if you'd like to answer.
He wrote up the definitive subdivision plan about this is the subdivision plan. Rick created it.
Yeah, so for instance, you could go by a process, if your neighbor wanted to access through your land to get to their land, you could create a mutually agreed upon easement.
Correct.
And go record it at the registry of deeds and not have to get any input from the town
Yep.
whatsoever. In order to create a way, you have to make a filing to the planning board under the subdivision control law, and you have to create a right-of-way that has a whole bunch of different standards to it. Where this was a way that was only servicing one lot, you know, in our opinion, it would have been more detrimental to the neighborhood to put in sidewalks, a full roadway width, and all kinds of impervious surfaces, and create a superhighway that would go. to a
Just to be
single-family lot.
clear, the easement is only 29 feet wide, correct?
The easement is only 29 feet wide, that's correct.
So you couldn't do that because the road requirements are 40 feet plus a 4-foot sidewalk.
That's correct. And that's.
So that's why you didn't propose
That-
the
yeah,
40-foot
that's
road.
right. And, you know, quite honestly, a 24-foot wide driveway to service a single-family house is extraordinarily large. But we left it.
It's not a
that way.
driveway.
No, I.
So,
I said-
so this is where we're getting
I
a little.
apologize, I said
So-
right. Yeah,
If it's a driveway, there's no frontage.
that's right. It's
But-
a roadway, a
but
24-foot wide
how is
roadway
it-
to
how is it-
service one
how is
single-family
it-
house is
it
extraordinarily
different than a
wide.
driveway? It looks, how is it a way? It doesn't, it does exactly what a driveway was.
Because because we've created it as a right-of-way through this process.
Okay, so let me ask one other question. You've got this application with the subdivision of the 40 Banks rear lot. That way connects from 40 Bank Street over the easement,
Over the, it isn't right-of-way, that's right.
over the easement, which is on their property, to the 40 Banks rear site. So it's not a way in that spot between the easement at that point, because the way would require you to subdivide that lot also and have a property line. The way frontage is written, there's a property line between the way and the piece of property.
Yeah,
And you can't subdivide their lot.
so in this case, it connects to a 29-foot right-of-way that was created for the purpose of
Access.
building roads and access.
Not building roads.
But not as a
Access.
way. It still gives you access. You can still put a driveway on it. You
Yeah.
can still pave it, but it's not a way unless you get them to agree to subdivide the property.
It's a driveway otherwise.
That's one of my biggest concerns, is that we're putting something on somebody else's property that would require their property divided, and their property, then the property that would be divided from the way would be actually non-conforming in size.
I think that gets down to a legal point as to what the purpose of the way was.
What the nature of the easement is.
What the purpose, yeah, the purpose, it's my understanding it was created as a right-of-way
And we're not debating that. I don't think that's our question. It's a right-of-way access agreement. It's an easement. We understand you have the rights to pave it, to put a driveway on it, to access the rear lot. None of those things provide frontage. A driveway is not a
Except
frontage.
in the subdivision control law, you can name this as a private way, as a body of the municipality.
We can
Yes.
subdivide her land.
No.
Then
I'm not
I
asking
don't,
you to
I'm not
subdivide the
seeing in the
land.
easement agreement that you have the rights to make this a private way that defines frontage.
There is plenty of case law as well, that easements and access, and this is why the subdivision control law was created. In order to access land, overland, easements get paved, they turn into private ways. There are plenty private ways here that go over other people's land, in Winthrop and throughout the Commonwealth.
Sure.
In any case, I don't see, this doesn't strike me as having the characteristics that a way would have. It's just an outsized driveway. As you've said, you can't meet the sidewalks requirement. You can't meet, the turning radius corners. Those things that tend to be characteristic of roads, and they would be odd on the property because it would be odd, the property already connects to the street. You already can put a driveway there and connect the property to the street. It already has that amount of frontage. And so this thing as a way doesn't do anything more than a driveway would. It doesn't allow any greater kind of,
Well, the reality is we could put a sidewalk in there, we've just asked for a waiver not to because we didn't think it was prudent to add any more impervious surfaces.
Correct.
To this area.
So if you
There could
do
be
not
a
want to
sidewalk
approve a
in-
waiver
in this
for,
design. There's enough room to do it.
yeah, if you do not want to approve a waiver for sidewalks, we can,
We couldn't put a sidewalk on both sides, but we
Right.
could have a sidewalk.
Yep.
Just didn't think it was appropriate given the nature of the flooding. That's why we worked so hard with the fire department on the hammerhead turnaround and offered to sprinkle the house to make it easier for them to accept that as a reasonable turnaround for one single family house.
I guess where my question just comes in is like subdividing someone else's lot to do this, because you said there were examples of lots being subdivided to make ways.
no, let me clarify. We are subdividing their lot in the definitive subdivision plan. All we are asking is to declare the easement a public way in order to create frontage on my client's land.
Which would be the driveway.
We are asking it to be a private way.
So then for it to be a private way, I guess that's what I'm not really understanding, there has to be a declaration by the planning board that.
Under the subdivision
is-
control law.
Then that makes her lot smaller.
It does not. It's still her land underneath.
But.
Underneath, as it has been for all these years as well. And they could have paved it before now. They could have gone on to the land and done
We're not
anything they
debating,
wanted
we're
to
not
with the
debating
land.
that point.
I'm just, it's a private land. And I understand buyer's remorse. I deal with real estate people, people coming in all the time that didn't realize that they bought an easement on their land, or what a right-of-way is.
But you're asking to extend the rights of the easement to become a private way
No,
on their
I'm sorry,
land.
no, there's no extra rights that we're asking for. We are asking only to utilize the rights that we have under the easement law of Massachusetts and the subdivision law to create frontage.
All right,
We're
I
not
think
trying
we
to
can address
devalue
this.
Ms. Spicer's land.
Well, that would have an imperative impact on the value of her land too, but we can, that's not for us to debate as a board.
I just don't, yeah. So-
There are 3 waivers. I think there was a comment made, which is probably worth asking, that you could have reduced to 2 waivers by adding a sidewalk, right? And I guess I'm trying to understand that we made motions of denial for all 3 waivers 2 years ago, and it seems like it's the exact same waivers before us. Questioning why changes weren't made if we had an opportunity to reduce some of these waivers and be more compliant. Maybe there's a reason.
You know, I think the reason again is, you know, we went back to the fire department, you know, which is really one of the leading resources for adequacy of access. And again, they supported this particular design for adequate access to this home.
You know, and the other thing that is different than any other of the, you always hear 6 were denied before, we went to Superior Court. The previous owners went to the Board of Appeals and asked for no frontage, a variance from frontage. We're not asking for that. We're asking for the private way to be created so we can have frontage. We're not we don't even have to go to a Board of Appeals after this, if a private way is approved, okay? Additionally, if you look at the previous decisions, it was for large apartment complexes, it's for large properties. We're talking about a single-family home here.
So, but is that binding, or does just the subdivision get recorded?
So the nature of the development is in this application, despite what you say, correct? The nature of this application is only the private
Is it
way.
about the division of
It's
the?
only the private way.
Frontage.
However, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the single-family house is implied by the geometry of the lot. The geometry of the lot can only provide for a by right to single-family house.
Which in Winthrop is a by right 2-family home, just to be clear, right?
No.
No.
The dimensional requirements for a 2-family home are different than for a single-family home. The lot width and the frontage gets bigger. This wouldn't have enough lot width for a 2-family home. So in order for a 2-family to ever be put here, someone would have to go get relief from the Board of Appeals.
Correct.
So just by the geometry of the lot, it can only be a single-family.
Weren't you claiming you had 125 feet of frontage at some point?
Yeah,
It's
can we
not-
talk
it's-
about the frontage and how it's measured along the curves?
Yes, correct. It's measured along the hammerhead.
I've
But the-
never seen that before. Is that something that
It's
happens
just like
in
when you have a
Winthrop?
cul-de-sac, it's measured around the cul-de-sac.
So it seems like you've divided this lot so that it could be divided into 2 lots.
No, it doesn't have enough width to be, there isn't enough lot width there for it to be a second lot.
All right, because the lot width is the same as the frontage number.
Well, the lot width gets measured through the house, so it's a different measurement.
But
From
you
side
can,
line to side line,
right,
it's
but
like
you can do a
75 feet.
2-family.
I do have the land usage table for the lot proposals here as well, if you want, because I figured this might come up about the frontage and everything.
So, but if
You would like?
if
You can bring it
If
up.
the portion of the property that is the easement were to be designated
Thank you.
as a private way, the 40 Bank site could not count that area for
No.
zoning in terms of their for a single-family home. That piece of property could no longer be counted in area, and that would make the lot non-conforming.
No,
No, that leaves over
So-
15,000 square feet for the Lot A. Lot B would be the Hammerhead, and Lot A would...
No, I'm talking about the 40 Banks front property.
about what?
The 40 Banks front property, their property.
Yeah,
their
there's no,
easement.
there's no calculation. So the resulting lot on Lot A, so the existing lot's about 20,000 square feet. About a little under 5,000 square feet of that becomes right-of-way. So the resulting lot is 15,542 square feet.
That's not the
It
lot I'm
could-
referring to. The lot I'm referring to is the 40 Banks front lot, the main lot. And I don't recall what the area is off the top of my head, but it's about 85 feet by 100 feet, is that right?
Yeah.
So it's 8,500 square feet, is that right? If they can no longer count the right-of-way area,
They would.
They would,
No,
though.
they
It
already-
doesn't take
get
away from the
taken
square
away.
footage of their lot.
We already have the right to pass when we pass over that
you
area.
have that as a driveway, but I'm saying if it's a right-of-way, even if it's private, I
Right,
don't
where would they
know
count
that-
their setbacks from, and where would they measure
They
from?
would need to measure it from the right.
It would be the lot that is on their deed, regardless of the right-of-way and what you approve or not
But
approve.
then it's a driveway, because the driveway can go over there's nothing different about this. So when I asked you what's different, why is this not a driveway? The response was, well, we're just changing the definition of things. It wasn't about the characteristics of things that make something a driveway or a way. So how is this a way versus a driveway? And I mean in actuality.
Because the proposed hammerhead connects to an existing 29-foot wide right-of-way that provides access to it.
Well, I think we can focus on subdivision control law. Right, which allows that essentially, I mean, I think there's probably more questions from the board, right, that I think falls to our opinion of the planning board that this has to have sufficient width, suitable grades, meet the requirements of a private way. And we can discuss this application, the merits of the waivers being asked for. So waiver one, you guys, can you remind me, applicant, it's curb radius not less than 20 feet existing at the entrance to the right-of-way. You have 0, is that correct? That's the first waiver, right? Second waiver was dead-end streets provided with a turnaround outside diameter of at least 120 feet. You're proposing the hammerhead,
Correct.
right? So we're looking for a waiver for turnaround and outside diameter. And then sidewalks of not less than 8 feet in width on either side of the street, probably in conjunction with a 40-foot wide road, and you're proposing a 29-foot wide road with no sidewalks, right? Those are the only 3 waivers.
Correct.
So those are the motions we should focus on tonight. I don't know if there's any other questions or motions we want to pass.
This question of the planning board reviewing subdivisions in a flood zone and also reviewing the water mitigation solutions. Do you have any thoughts on that?
What's the question?
It was brought up earlier in the winter bylaws that it says the planning board must review any subdivision in a flood zone and review the associated water mitigation plans.
You can ask for that to be submitted.
Okay.
Yep. Any other comment or motion?
We
No?
can definitely submit those. Those are ready, and they can
Okay.
put those forward to you.
Absolutely, great.
Are you still working on your questions?
No, sorry.
No, no worries. I just want to clarify, if I could step back for just 1 second. The easement is owned by the Callis, correct?
The easement over the land is owned by the Callis.
Over the land. Is the easement temporary or permanent?
It is
How
a
does that
permanent
work?
easement.
Okay, thank you. I'm also just curious on this Form C definitive subdivision plan application. The wetlands question, yes or no, is not checked, either yes or no. Which should it be?
It should be checked.
So there's no wetlands on the
Right.
site?
There's no
It's
wetlands.
kind of a unique thing, but there is a floodplain on the site, which is not a wetland, but it is a protected resource area under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Sorry, then I definitely need to clarify. So this form, which has been submitted before, should say wetlands, no, should be checked. And then the next question after that is floodplain, yes or no?
Yes.
And that should be yes?
That's correct.
I thought I made that correction in the office. My apologies if it didn't make it to your copy, but I did, when I checked that off, my apologies that it wasn't on your copy.
I think it may also still say the site is flat, and the site is not flat.
I was also,
I don't know if it still
because of
says
the,
that, it did in the first.
because of the
version.
remand, I was told that it was the same application to be considered. My apologies for not changing much. That was, the only thing I was supposedly allowed to give on remand was more information, supplemental information.
Well, just so we're clear, the land wasn't flat when it was originally submitted and now is flat, right?
No, it was,
Like-
it always said it was flat.
Right, so.
Well, technically it is
I
flat.
don't understand
It's-
what
there's
you're
no-
saying.
There's no.
You're saying as a reason for not making the change that because it was a revised application, you were told not to make changes, but it sounds like it was wrong in the first place. Why wouldn't you correct it?
Because on remand from the court, I was told it was had to be the original application that was voted on.
So just to be clear, you're saying that the court told you
Oh,
that
this
you
is me and your
couldn't make
counsel, ma'am?
and correct
No.
the
Because
application
we're
when
in
there
a
was an
lawsuit
error?
at the moment, we had voted on a remand, and a remand was established, and I was told it was going to be on the same application, that I could submit new information, but I wasn't told to redo the old application.
Are you reading from the application we're looking at now or an old one?
This just came tonight.
So I had put forward, I had brought in everything that was from previous, and then I submitted new stuff.
Okay, so the new application has that error corrected?
It's not a new application.
Those are the words you just used.
I said, on remand from the court, it was decided that we would be on the same application that was submitted and voted down in 2021. I had caught that mistake when I resubmitted it, and I thought I had checked it off physically, that it was part, so my apologies.
No, I appreciate your apology. I just
I
feel
just-
like you're giving a bit of a runaround on the answer,
I-
and I
is
still
my-
don't understand what you're saying.
Okay, because you voted on one application, and we are on remand from the court, I was told it was only gonna be on that application, the same one that was submitted.
Oh my God.
Okay, so when she asked
That I could only,
Yeah, so now I'll ask my question. So when she asked you if there was a change, your answer was that you didn't think you were allowed to make the change.
but I did anyway.
And so my question was, but it was erroneous originally.
Or a
Why didn't you
mistake on my
correct it?
previous counsel's part.
Mistake, error, fine.
But
The
we all know
reason,
that.
and then you changed the reason to it was because of the court,
Because of my conversations with your counsel, ma'am.
because of the conversations with our town council.
Correct, and what we put
Okay.
together is a stipulation that was accepted by the judge.
I'm good. I have the three answers you provided. Thank you. Thank you.
My apologies, I didn't mean to not state everything correctly. I just am trying to answer your question.
Thank you.
And I didn't provide three answers, but I am sorry if I was mistaken, or we didn't connect on exactly what transpired.
I
So,
appreciate that. Thank you.
my apologies for, it was not my application in the beginning.
Understood. Thank you.
I would have not made that mistake. But hopefully we can rectify it here as well.
Can I ask a procedural question? I don't know if this is for Chris or Rachel, but we have the paperwork that was submitted by the Neighbors Council, and we haven't had the opportunity to review this, so are we actually going to vote tonight, or do we need to defer so that we can review the rest of the new materials that were submitted?
That's at the will of the board, I would think.
You can make a motion to continue if you wanted time to review this. Sounds like Alyssa's also asked for environmental information and floodplain information, so.
Yeah, I have just
Leave
one
that
more
to you guys.
question that I've already asked, but I'm sorry to need more clarification. So about measuring the frontage, and I know that you used the example of a cul-de-sac. When I picture a cul-de-sac, it's kind of like the inverse of this, where you have a round edge and you're kind of measuring a longer edge that way. With the hammerhead, there are a few little turns, and it's a little ambiguous to me, because it seems like if you just wanted more frontage, you could kind of just like extend that hammerhead however long you want in order to like get it the length that you want.
Exactly, just like in any kind of subdivision, you can extend the road and move the cul-de-sac around to create more frontage, to generate more lots. Same thing. I'd be happy to send a figure along that clearly identifies exactly how it was calculated, then you can.
No, yeah, I believe you, and I can see it. I've just never seen it done, and I'm just generally like trying to glance at the map of Winthrop. I can't see anything shaped like that, so I was just trying to understand if it's something there's a precedent for, like in Winthrop, that I could take a look at.
I don't know that, I don't know if you find a lot of precedents in Winthrop about cul-de-sacs or hammerheads or dead-end turnarounds, but, yeah, I mean, it's an industry-wide thing. I mean, that's hammerheads, whatever shape it is, that whole piece that faces the lot would be considered frontage.
So I also believe there is a lot width requirement that between the building structure and the frontage, that no part of the lot can be less than 75% of the width of and you've got two little wings that are less than 75% of that width.
Yeah, but if you read the definition of lot width, it's from side lot line to side lot line, side lot line to right of way. Take a look at
Yes,
the definition
except that there's another sentence that says at no portion. I mean.
Correct, you're correct, but the lot width, the little wing that you're measuring isn't from side lot line to side lot line. What it is it's a way to avoid pork chop lots. So you can't have a real small piece of frontage that blows up into a big lot. The lot can't be less than 75 feet. 75% of 75 feet between the right of way and the dwelling. And it's also measured between the right of way and the dwelling.
Can I go back to my issue
I'm
one more
sorry,
time?
I
No
interrupted
worries,
you
I'm
again.
so sorry. I don't mean to beat this to death, but I would feel more comfortable with the corrected application, which it sounded like you had handwritten on. I don't know what the board's constraints are because they're involved, but would it be possible to have in writing?
Absolutely.
A corrected, thank you. Could you send it to Rachel?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Are you requesting additional information as well, Alyssa?
I don't think there's any more information to be given about the hammerhead, but I did request the site drainage information and engineering. And when you're calculating that, are you just calculating the portion of the lot and where the water mitigation is just on the lot, or would you also provide mitigation below the right of way? Like, how are you engineering that?
So there's, the flood study would include a pre-development condition that would show where the runoff goes right now. And then it would compare that to the post-development condition. It wouldn't just be limited to the subject property, it would be limited to all the areas that are tributary to the drainage design point that's going on.
clarifying question on this application. The other question in this flow here, is any zoning relief being requested, and it said no.
Correct.
I'm just wondering, is anything going to the zoning board?
As of now, no.
Okay.
All we need, we are in compliance with everything, as far as,
That doesn't mean something couldn't happen in the future, though.
it's very true. But right now, with the proposal that we have as a single family, we are within all the setbacks and will be under the new zoning code, even though it was subdivided a while back. So we meet all the requirements. The table that I just sent around, we meet all the requirements.
So the other thing by right that could be built here would be a single family. You know, this property was duly noted, has lost 5 other times at the Board of Appeals. It's unlikely it would ever prevail at the Board of Appeals, so I guess that doesn't preclude somebody within their right to try to go back to the Board of Appeals if they wanted to.
So I have a question for the board, then I think this came up the last time we heard it, is that, I know we're just talking about these 3 reliefs, but is there an option for us to put a stipulation that it remain, like, it has to be as proposed to us, a single family? Or is that just, our only role is to grant, or not grant the relief, and that's all we can do?
I don't know the answer to that question. We'd have to ask council what kind of constraints we could put on a subdivision, but I think that the only application before us is not about what's to be built on the site. It's
Right.
about a subdivision to provide
right.
frontage. So
Okay.
a single family, a 2-family condo is not part of our application or purview
Right.
today.
I think it's either, yes, we agree it complies, no, we
Yeah.
don't.
That's
Or
right.
a continuance?
And the house was shown for context only. I think the plan
Gotcha.
used that just to kind of put everything into perspective.
I will say I just conferred with my clients, and they would be
Waivers isn't built
glad
to
to put that as a
do that,
stipulation,
right?
if that is something that the board chooses to move forward with.
Okay.
That
if we
makes more
can't
sense to
do
me
it,
than
then.
anything. Okay.
Just
No,
'cause-
I don't know that the board could do it, but the applicant could certainly agree to limit his own property if he so chose to.
So can I make a motion to continue pending the submission of the additional information that we've asked for? Is everyone, I know you're nodding, everyone clear for the minutes, what we're looking for?
Rachel, can you read back what we're asking for new information?
I rely on our recording mostly, that my own,
Okay.
sorry, yeah, my own, you wanted site drainage, information, and then
A corrective.
corrected cover page, or corrected application.
Yeah.
Anything else you're looking for?
Yeah, we are recording that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Sorry.
There's have we closed public issue
Yeah.
questions?
We have.
Okay.
It was more just clarifying, is it possible that it be an independent review of the engineering?
We're just asking for I think, engineering from the applicant,
Of what that their engineer completed?
of what they're proposing for stormwater mitigation and drainage on site.
Right.
Yeah, we have not seen the applicant's design yet, so we'd start there.
Do those plans include the number of trees that are being removed and what's being proposed, or is it just stormwater?
Excuse me, they don't, you know, we could certainly look within the right-of-way, you know, the right-of-way being proposed, those trees, but,
Did they come into consideration with the calculations for the drainage?
yeah, the ground, the presence of trees and ground cover definitely comes into the calculations between the pre-release. So, you know, the pre-development condition would consider a wooded condition, which has a certain amount of runoff associated with it. And then the pros, the portion of that would be a grassed condition, which has a completely different runoff that accounts for the loss of trees.
I have a question in terms of runoff again. This is on page 4 of the packet that we received. There's a hatched area that says proposed bituminous concrete pavement. But the word pervious isn't, I know someone mentioned it's going to be a pervious.
It'll be a pervious asphalt.
Not impervious, okay. I would like to recommend that the word pervious be added to the drawing to clarify that, because it can go either way. So, I don't know if it's somewhere else in here, but, yeah.
Okay, so now we have stormwater, number of trees removed, corrected application. Pervious driveway language added in more clearly.
Okay. Kim has a motion to continue to our next planning board hearing. Anybody second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
I think probably roll call
Roll
vote
call
might
for
be
that.
best, yeah. Let me just pull up my. Okay. Motion to continue to the, we actually have to say the meeting date, which is, bear with me a minute. February 12th, 2024. So it's a motion to continue to February 12th, 2024.
Should I say that out loud?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to continue to February 12th, 2024.
Great. And then the second.
Alyssa, second.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Second.
Okay, great. Roll call vote. Chris Boyce,
Yes.
Gina Demento,
Yes.
Honor Merceret,
Yes.
Kimberly Hirsch,
Yes.
Sarah Jane Fornes,
No.
Alyssa Gamble,
Yes.
and Jason Palucho.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 6 yeses and 1 no.
No, it's fine, I know. The young person. We're good. Yeah.
Okay, so we will continue this item. Thanks for the presentation. See you on February 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the board.
All right, we have one more item on our agenda. Last item, 6872 Almont Street, an A&R request.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, for the record, Rick Sal with Engineering Alliance, here this evening on behalf of Patrick Butler, who's the owner and applicant for this particular piece of land. This property is located on Almont Street. It has 2 buildings on one lot. According to the assessor's records, these buildings were built around 1900. We're proposing to subdivide it just to put each house on its own separate property. The first lot, you can read, would have about 41 feet of frontage on Almont Street. The second lot would have about 20 feet of frontage and be kind of an L-shaped lot. There's a provision under Chapter 41, Section 81L, that says the division of tract of land on which 2 or more buildings were standing when the subdivision control law went into effect, which was 1953. In the city of town which the land lies into separate lots, on each of which one of such building remains standing shall not constitute subdivision. So we're asking for an A&R endorsement just to be able to separate these 2 buildings on their own lots. No new buildings being proposed or anything, so.
Great.
It's a little quirky section of the,
You said the assessor showed 1900, and we know subdivision was 1950s, thereabouts.
yeah,
All right, so it predates subdivision control law anyway.
and zoning for that matter.
Yeah, right. Anybody have comment? I don't,
Why does it say approval not required on the agenda?
that's the nature of this application. It's an A&R.
So approval is not required under the subdivision control law. You might have heard the term an A&R plan. A&R is approval not required.
Great, I think this one's pretty straightforward. Anybody want to pass a motion?
Can I see it? Sorry, I
Oh.
didn't seem to print out the plan, so I just want to take one last look at it.
So it goes like this, and this.
Why'd you do this little square?
We did that just to give it 20 feet of frontage, which is like the minimum frontage that's usually required under most case laws, so.
Got it.
Do you mind carrying that down when
Not at
Honor's
all.
done, so we can all thank you?
I apologize, I didn't like you into the copy. So, it goes just like this. That's that lot, and then this lot for this house.
And this is just to understand
Just puts each house on its own lot.
direction?
Yep.
High school. Here?
Yeah, cross streets here. Almont.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where it is. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you guys want to see it?
So this lot would be this shape and this lot.
Any questions?
Just real quick, both have access to the street, right? They both, you were saying that 20-foot frontage?
Correct, yep. The street has direct access to the street there.
So this would be the frontage for this?
Correct. And then this would be the frontage for that. So this-
And that's a driveway easement?
Yes, correct, because they park in the back, yeah.
Okay, so what is being subdivided?
So right now, the lot is shaped like this.
Mm-hmm.
After the A&R is approved, one lot would exist here, and one lot would exist here. So each house would be on their own separate parcel.
And the difference, Gina, is essentially that these two structures were already in place
Right.
and built predating.
Right, I'm just
The
trying to
dimensional
understand, 'cause I couldn't see
regulations
it
that
when
we
were
have
talking before.
to know.
So you want to use this?
Yes.
And the same owner owns both parcels?
Correct.
For the whole parcel?
Yeah.
Understood.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
I guess, yeah, I just have a question then, how, because those are existing buildings, right? Like, if one, there's no way they're gonna be demoed out and they can, then non-conforming lots, right? Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, they're already pre-existing non-conforming as it is, so.
yeah,
And now they would still be pre-existing non-conforming on their own lots.
okay.
So if anyone ever wanted to do anything to expand one of these dwellings or do something to dwelling, they would have to go to the Board of Appeals, they wouldn't be able to do it by right.
And currently, they kind of share that driveway,
Correct.
and, but now that driveway's gonna belong to the.
That's right, that's why we proposed an easement on there, so if one was ever sold separately, they'd be granted the easement.
Oh, okay. I didn't read that, sorry.
Motion.
Okay.
Good.
Procedural question, is the proper word endorse?
Yes.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Is the proper word endorse?
A motion,
I mean, is that like the language in the subdivision law?
yeah, so it'll
It
say,
sounds so like, yes, we really want to do this, when in fact
Yeah.
it's more like, sure.
yeah, so that's what has to be on the plans is,
Bottom right corner.
yeah, here we go.
Sign.
Approval under subdivision control on a not required community development, and then it says endorsement of this plan does not indicate compliance with zoning ordinances of the town of Winthrop, so that's what the endorsement would be for the signatures.
Oh, so we would just,
You can just make a
Are we-
motion to approve, you don't have to.
Yeah.
make a motion to approve.
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah.
I have one more quick question, I'm sorry, I'm still processing this. So there's no minimum lot size requirements for a subdivision?
Not for a lot that has two dwellings on it that were built prior to the subdivision control law. Okay, so this doesn't apply to just any scenario, this is a specific scenario that applies because there have to be two buildings on one lot that existed prior to the enactment of the subdivision control law.
Sorry, my wheels are turning, I'm just making sure I don't have more questions. I don't think I do. I'm just it seems like there's not really an increase in the, issues with setbacks and distance
it stays
between the
the same,
buildings,
yeah.
like it's all the same.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the A&R. Hold on, what am I approving? The Almond Street approval not required.
Second. Do a roll call, Rachel?
Yes. Okay. Chris Boyce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Gina Demento?
Yes.
Honor Mercer?
Yes.
Kimberly Hirsch?
Yes.
Sarah Jane Fornes?
Yes.
Alyssa Gamble,
Yes.
and Jason Palucho.
Yes.
All in favor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very
Do
much.
we want to sign and then you can just take it? Is that okay? We just need, I think we need a blue pen. That's the.
I have a blue pen.
We can probably just put it up here.
Did they do it? I missed the vote. You're gonna wanna wait for this, 'cause that's what has to be recorded. That was what they gave us, you know? Busy, huh?
You guys wanna start from there?
So they have to sign the paper and then the Mylar
Is
as
there a
well,
choo-choo
correct?
train?
Or will it transfer?
Or if you want, if you want them just to sign the Mylar, I can scan it and email it back to you.
Okay, so it's not gonna do that transfer. So right here. So you would be at the bottom with the date and then, yes, January 10th.
Here.
What are you doing with your district? My own building.
Black, I lied.
I don't even have, like,
It might be okay on-
but they're like
Oh, and I have like
digital.
7,000 pens.
Not true. I feel like someone told me.
Like, I don't
Is that not true? Okay, I think black's fine.
Okay, here,
Yeah,
use
sorry.
black.
All right. I don't know who told me that, but.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, someone told me
Maybe
that years ago, maybe.
Easier to show that it's a real signature.
Oh, okay, not a scan.
Like by just looking at it, you
Yeah.
know?
Big apartment on the third floor, big apartment on the
Oh,
second.
I am, I'm gonna smudge it.
So we've got the Board of Appeals to allow us to make the second floor commercial. And then the third floor, 2 apartments. Then subsequent, town went on, then they got 3 apartments on the second floor.
I ended up getting that second floor apartment.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. They just put it in. Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want paper copy.
I wanted to put a drive.
Electronic would be great, yeah, thank you.
You're gaining 5.
I know.
So it doesn't, even if it dries, it's going to.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Well, they, 2, right next to each other, 1.2. They were directly.
You can't even buy a used car for 62.
Yeah, that's almost coming. Yeah. John is first house husband.
And then we just have the minutes. I passed out hard copies, I also emailed them. I think I passed out hard copies.
The next house on the Greenfield's house.
Yes.
Stop.
I'm gonna take it, because I gotta scan it.
All right.
Thank you. You still have my email, right? You can send me anything.
What's that?
You still have my email?
Yeah.
Ah, great, thank you. And then we just have
Get it from Rachel.
the December minutes, if there was any corrections or changes.
Oh, I just had those.
They were somewhere in that packet, I think.
Yeah, just for,
Right.
just, I was
Yeah,
looking. It was the one for you, right? This one?
Was I there? If I wasn't there, it doesn't matter.
Take care, boys and girls. Good to see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Nice to see you guys.
Good to see you.
Hey, Jen.
Good to see you, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I have no corrections or comments on December.
There's a typo in Kimberly's name in
Oh.
the second.
Oh, yep,
This time, nice.
I'll fix that.
Kimberly, you should be the first to find that.
Where is the typo? Not on the roll call.
No,
Under
in the
meeting minutes.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, that's
It's
missing
right
that.
in number 1, it's right in number 2.
No.
Oh,
Number
it's
two.
missing an E.
No.
All right,
The
that's
E.
an unusual typo. I'll get all sorts, though.
And not a huge deal. but, At the end, there's no space in my name.
Oh,
between
okay, sorry
DL
about that.
and M.
You got the typo in my name, I guess, right? Rachel?
I'm sorry.
You got the typo in my name too. Sarah with an H.
In 1B.
In 1B, the top.
Missing an H on Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh.
We have difficult names, sorry. I didn't see anything substantive that I would change, though.
Did the Fremont Ave neighbors respond and say we're fine?
Oh, yeah, I do have, an update on that. She did email me back.
Is it missing something? Because it says the trees, the fencing, and then comma. Did it get cut off?
Under what section?
Like at the very end, I just
Turn the
wondered if there
page
was like
over.
a second page
It's-
that I'm
oh.
missing.
It's double-sided.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. My goodness.
It's been a long day.
It's a long
Yeah.
I'm so
Or at least a
sorry.
long note.
Long night.
So,
Here.
one thing that we did talk about in December, that's not in here in the minutes, was we talked about, and I think it's important to include in our record, is
Was
that
it
when.
an executive session or?
No, it was
during-
not. It was
Okay.
about how we deliver meeting minutes. And we said that I had proposed including the presentations that were done.
Oh, yes, okay.
By, you know.
Applicants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that we get because it's public money going to make these presentations.
Mhm.
And why can't we have access to them on our website, even if it's included in the meeting minutes when we approve them? And we decided not to do that because things, you know, the meeting minutes should contain just the discussion that we have in our conclusions. That, am I correct in saying that? That was a general
I don't
feeling.
actually, I don't remember that, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I
I'm
think that
sorry.
we were a little concerned about leaving, without
was here, it looks like,
first having this public information session that we want to have, that if we delivered
yeah.
the slide decks to them before we explained. that
Oh,
they
I
would-
remember
they
that,
would
yeah.
For the
Yeah,
MBTA
they sound
On
like
the
two
MBTA
different issues,
with
though.
the present, or
Yeah.
have that open, yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, and
And so, like,
holding off.
retroactively
Doesn't stand
including
alone,
that,
no.
because sometimes we get comments about our record, like, oh, what happened in that meeting? And my thinking was, well, it's public funding that's going to making these, but,
Right.
but I feel like we should maybe just say that we've thought about it and we're not gonna do it.
Okay.
Isn't that what we decided? We're not gonna include presentations?
I think that we did.
I think two different issues, right? I remember having so maybe I'm wrong, but I remember having the conversation that we're not gonna post a link to the website with
Yeah.
anything for 3A housing or otherwise that we have not made a formal recommendation or vote on.
Okay.
Right in their draft
Right.
presentations. So that's one, that's how I remember it. I don't see a reason why those presentations couldn't be included with the meeting minutes from the day that they were presented.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought I had like suggested that and it was shot down.
No, so that's actually a great way to put things and say it's
Yeah.
still draft form and it's part of that meeting, it's a record of
Yeah,
the meeting, it's
yeah.
a fine
So-
way to show it.
Yeah.
But
That's-
I think
that's what I
that's
was
a
thinking.
I think that's something that needs to be evaluated with each thing, because some materials could be standalone and some might
Like
not.
all of this
Well, when they
otherwise.
become
Well,
official
we
and
do have to be
submitted.
careful of
Yeah.
data privacy, and so we should just confirm because the meeting minutes get posted online.
Right.
So there's a difference between someone from Winthrop coming into town hall and requesting to look at materials that are protected within the town hall and looking at them versus the public
Yep.
accessing them. So we should just confirm that there aren't any issues with doing that.
Yeah, I guess you can check that.
I think things like the PowerPoint, like the applicant presented that PowerPoint today, I think that something like that is probably
be
fine.
fine, yeah.
But maybe some of the other bigger, major legal documents, I mean,
Yeah.
they're still public, but,
I think to also not burden Rachel in the meeting minutes, it's maybe whatever's simply presented on screen is all we include. Everything else just not included.
But going back to what you were saying about the I don't know what we're calling it, the information session or whatever
Yeah.
that we're calling it.
Oh, the executive session?
MAPC thing.
Oh.
After the presentations have been presented and it is public, I don't see why we can't link to the site then.
I
right?
guess the only confusion when we had that conversation, my concern, right, maybe it's invalid, but my concern was linking to it might be conflated in people's minds with, that is our proposal for
Right,
3A
right,
housing.
right.
And
So
then
I want to
really
make
just-
sure I understand what we're talking about as it. I thought quote unquote it was presentations and other materials presented at the info session. So sharing those after the session so that those who weren't able to attend the session
Yep.
can access them. Why is that?
I don't
How
think
is
that would
that
be
a
an
negative
issue.
thing?
No,
I'm
that wouldn't be an
confused.
issue.
So
Well,
my understanding of his response was that, maybe I should go, but my understanding is that we're saying, this is what we think. And it's not what we think, it's just what was presented at the meeting.
Right, but why don't we present it as this is,
Which,
as
yeah, to that
this is what
point-
was presented at the meeting, instead of it being
they're-
presented as this is what we think.
Right, if they're
Right.
informational meetings, like.
Here's the information that was presented at the meeting.
It should hopefully be structured as
Yeah.
correct information, because that's the point of the
Yeah.
meeting, and we're hiring a consultant to do a good job at that.
I mean, we can
so
add a
hopefully-
disclaimer that states this is not the opinion of the board or the official decision.
Yeah, I
of
guess the
or any of
distinction.
that, but
The distinction I thought is like, one, the way that you're saying it now makes sense to me, that it's like the January 10th meeting.
And then there's
This
a
is,
link in the
here's the
notes,
meeting, this is
yeah.
what
I'm
presented.
specifically talking about the info session
Yeah,
that we're
makes
looking to
sense.
do.
I guess my concern is like.
That's the only thing I'm talking about right now.
Okay, so
I'm
we're
not
gonna
talking
do
about
like a
our
community
meetings generally.
information session, and for that, we might prepare some slides that would explain something, right? Definitely, I would think it would make sense to share that with the
Right, I mean,
public.
the purpose of the information session is to get the information out and available to as many people in town of Winthrop as possible. So I'm confused as to why we wouldn't post the information that was shared in the information session.
I think
Yeah,
we
'cause-
definitely would.
Right?
Yeah, and so that's why I wanted to put it as part of the meeting minutes to say, this is the information we had at this point in time.
Well, so,
As to apply to every meeting we have, or are we still talking about the info session?
So specifically the info session meeting where we had the consultants come in
Yeah.
and present to us.
Yeah.
My idea would be that their slides would be an attachment to those meeting minutes.
Because otherwise, it's a link on the town website saying the MBTA Housing 3A zoning. And we have not made a recommendation for 3A housing yet, and we have not presented to the town council.
Right.
our meeting minutes.
So I'm hesitant to put
And I agree with
anything
that,
up
but I
there.
thought, I mean, how do we not have ownership over our own website to display it however we want with the language that we want?
And the meeting minutes could
I don't know
say,
what you want now.
see the website, you know.
Right, I
the
mean, it doesn't
website will
actually even
post
have to
the-
be a link to the 3A. It could be
Just-
any words we want with a hyperlink to that page.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't have
Yeah,
to
maybe you
be
can tell us
that
if there's
website.
a better way to put up there that makes it clear that it's on the planning board page potentially, and it's information on 3A housing, or in an
Yeah, I
informational
like the
session,
idea.
or
And it just,
draft information on the housing kind of thing.
this is already a very confusing topic for us and for the town, and the
Yep.
more,
Yep.
I agree with you, I guess, is what I'm saying, that the more information we can provide, not just on the subject matter, but on what is available to us while we're making our recommendations, I
Yep.
just don't see how that's,
No, it's not, so long as we caveat it well on the website,
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
all.
Yeah. So I can have, so I know they're.
not to give you more work.
No,
that's
no, it's not.
but-
And I know they're gonna be doing some pretty big changes to the website. I think just like modernizing it and making it a little bit simpler to use. So timing wise, I can send, what I could do probably in the meantime is, you know how like if you pull up planning board's page, there's those blue tabs on the left. If you click on it, it'll bring you to its own special like sub-page. I can have IT, you know, make a new tab. We can, when you click that tab, it'll open up and we can have it right there as like a disclaimer of this is preliminary, it's not set in stone, you know, obviously more eloquently worded than that. And then below that, there can be almost like a PDF link and you click on it and that'll have the final deliverables from the like 3 or 4 meetings that we had with UTIL.
Right, and we
Yeah.
can include hyperlinks that says for more information about the, you know, the rule itself, see here, and.
Yeah, that's totally fine. That's not a problem at all. Yeah, I can have them do that, because we have right now, I think, just a link to like the state page,
Okay.
and that's it. And I know,
That's confusing.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, and then we could put, and to see all the towns that are getting sued by the
Yeah,
state,
right.
see here.
Yeah, I mean,
For
that-
non-compliance, like.
you're right, I think that's
Yeah.
that's probably relevant, right? Like
Yeah,
defining the state law
Mhm.
and then defining our exploration are two
yeah.
yeah.
different but important things.
And we can put something too that, you know, we're gonna do further exploring and further lots of public meetings and open houses because, like I said, we have that grant now. I put the scope
Okay.
of work into procurement, so that'll get moving pretty quickly. So that'll be good, but there'll be a lot of public outreach related to that, so people
Yep.
know that there's more to come.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is asking too much, but a very simple timeline, like just.
Yes, that's fine. I have the timeline.
Letting people know what's
Yes.
the look ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this is a big enough and important enough topic that we should try and put as much attention as possible. I thought you were referred to just general, like our meetings generally, and I was like, that's a lot of
Well,
work for
yeah, I know.
someone that they can just come here and.
The 3A was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
catalyst for it.
Okay.
And then I was like, oh, we've also had some other good meetings where
Yeah.
like other initiatives felt like they sort of fell by the wayside, and it might make it easier to pick it up if we had those presentations handy at whatever point in time
Right.
we get,
Instead
and
of-
not sitting in my email somewhere. If I run a search, I'll.
I understand, but you're saying more now than I did in December.
Yeah,
Yep.
me too.
Yeah,
Me
okay.
too.
Were there several iterations of the report too? Like, would it be helpful for someone to document the evolution
I'd
of the
rather
report?
just show the
Just the
final.
final, the
Yeah.
final,
I think we
okay.
only had that.
That might add
Anyway.
confusion too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if someone looks back and they think. they
Only
look at
because the
final
other
and
drafts
it's not. Yeah.
don't stand alone without notes or discussion, right? The
that's
final,
tricky thing, yeah.
Oh,
the
okay.
final,
Yeah.
when linked with state law and what the 3A is,
Yep,
can give people a lot of information. The drafts
sure,
leading up to much is that confusion. And there's enough confusion about the topic already anyway that I think,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to start getting it in front of it is a great idea.
In terms of the information session that we've been talking about in community outreach, I know that we had said in December that we wanted to wait until we had a consultant on board to kind of see how to move forward with that. It seems like the buzz around town social media and everything is that people are already starting to make a lot of assumptions and complaints, and they really aren't understanding. And it just seems to me that it's pretty urgent that we start to explain to people how much time and work we have put into understanding this ourselves and how not scary it is, because we all understand it. And I just wonder like how to approach that, or like do we, I'm afraid of waiting a few months. We only see each other once a month and we have a lot on the next agenda. Like I'm just concerned about like if we don't start to take it on and start to either prepare our own slides or start to think about how we would inform the public, that it's gonna be a lot of confusion.
So what's the timeline for that?
So procurement has a scope of work. I think it goes out like every week. There's a special place that they advertise. You'd probably put 2 to 3 weeks to have consultants put in applications. And then, they'd probably need a little bit of time to review what we have, and then review what's existing. But doing a public meeting, a preliminary, I don't want to say preliminary, first public meeting, wouldn't have to be dependent on our planning board schedule. That would be its own entity and its own thing. And then, I don't think it would be too long of a timeline. And I know I can talk to Tony about it, because Tony's, putting,
I thought we were like this far away from hiring someone. Is that not the case?
no, I just got the notice, I just got notice to proceed in mid-December.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess once you work with Tony to hire somebody,
Yeah.
I think then it'd be worthwhile maybe at the end of our next meeting in terms of standing items to discuss timeline,
That
because
would be- yeah,
I think to Alyssa's point, it already leaves us as 11 meetings to pass zoning by law, right? We have to do it by end of
But we can start
24.
informing the public, right, before we are even moving towards like writing it and making our recommendation, like, with that piece aside, just having the piece of how we understand the law and like what we need to do and kind of what our current density is versus what they're requiring, like, just that very basic bit of information, I feel like could be just really useful. And
That scares me to do without a professional.
Yeah, I was gonna
1000%.
say, I agree it could be useful, but that is.
I would just
scenario
create
that
so
is
many
almost impossible
questions.
to contain to just that one thing, and it can easily, and most likely will, run off the rails.
Our first public discussion should have the advice of a consultant with us. That's
And we should be thoroughly prepared for it.
correct.
And they, you know, hopefully there'll be somebody who's in the trenches and has been doing this stuff for other towns and knows it back and forth.
I mean, it's sort of the same problem we always have had, which is we can't talk to each other except for when we're doing this.
Yep.
So even though it's a month in between meetings, it's a wasted month because we can't communicate with each other at all. So maybe we need to have more frequent meetings, or like a meeting in between our regular meetings that just focuses on that and preparing for it. Agreed.
Before
And
that-
some
I
of them
wanted
might
more
be joint
meetings.
council meetings too.
Right,
Like, we
that's
might
another thing is we
do
haven't
joint
connected with
town,
council
yeah.
at all. Because they're gonna start getting even, I don't even know if we're gonna start getting complaints, but they're gonna start getting, like, I know that I've already seen a list of suggestions from people to go to town council and tell them to not listen to any of our suggestions. And that is problematic to me that we haven't even had a discussion. It just seems like we need to step on the gas to me in terms of like letting people know, like, we have this, we're working on it. Even if we just tell them, okay, in April, we're gonna have a public meeting, it's gonna tell you everything. But like, if we can start to just tell people that or tell town council.
I mean,
that.
it's public that we have the grant, and that's been, I think, discussed a lot, and everyone knows, and like I said, we just did the scope and everything, so I think there's that out there that we've moved forward, and, I mean, all of our meetings have been public, and it's in,
Like, should we make a statement to town council about what our predicted timeline is? And then at least they have that in their hands?
I think,
to them?
I don't wanna speak for the next upcoming meeting agenda, but I think we'll, talk about it at that, so.
Our meeting agenda on the 12th, you're saying?
Oh, no, the 16th, I'm sorry, at town council.
Our council
Yeah.
will address it.
Like, should I go to that meeting?
Yeah, sorry, no,
Like, what,
Yeah.
like, how do I help, I guess, is what I'm wondering. I don't really understand how.
Yeah,
Like, as a planning board member, like, does it make sense to try to explain things outside of a planning board meeting?
yeah, let me ask.
Be careful.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially before we've drafted in or,
Yeah.
Don't-
made any
would
actual
not do that.
decisions, I would be careful.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you know, if, I feel like we're still all laymen about the issue, even though we do know more than a lot of people in the town. But I think it would be very easy to misspeak or to just simply not understand kind of the bigger picture and be able to like, reference something that's very clear that the consultant would know very well to give it as an example, or just misstate something by accident, I think can be very easy to do. But I get your point, like, the longer we're in silence, the more off the rails things can go in the town, and
Right.
so it would be good to get.
There is an urgency to it.
Real,
For sure.
clear and accurate information out there.
Okay, so we'll hear more on the 16th, and then you'll keep us posted when the
Yeah, of
consultant's
course,
on board.
yeah. I'll let you know, when we'll get bids in and they'll select one and,
Is UTL one of them? Just because they have so
I
much background
I
with
don't know,
this?
yeah, that would be great if they applied, but I don't know if they'll,
Okay.
yeah.
So when you said that would be great if they applied, does that, so a request for proposals has gone out?
No, I just got procurement, the scope of work. Yeah, I just got approval not that long ago, so. We had to have everything signed by the state.
Okay. Then the ZCAP plan is kind of the same thing, right? But there's not
Yeah.
not a definitive timeline for that by
No,
statute.
we don't have to have that like adopted or anything, but with the North Suffolk office, we just got, new funding for that. And I had mentioned to them that, we would maybe make some recommendations within that plan of what, tangible recommendations of, projects to focus on that might be beneficial for the town. And I think that doing that and making that kind of a recommendation for the North Suffolk office to focus on, both regional and Winthrop specific, I think would be really helpful. And it would be great to have something that when we have funding or pursue funding, we have this list of these items are, what we want to focus on.
Got it.
So that would be great. I'd appreciate that. I know the North Suffolk office would benefit from it too. And it's good to have some kind of game plan and long-term, short-term project.
Great. Okay. Yeah, then if you could, I guess, on the 12th, just give us an update on the website link also.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I can do that. I don't know if I'll get to it tomorrow, but I
Yeah,
can
that's
put it on IT's radar pretty quickly. That's not a problem.
Yep. Okay. Best motion of the night coming up? Get a motion?
Oh, a motion to adjourn.
That's a good one.
I second that.
All in favor?